Hey, everybody, welcome to True Crime Paranormal with the Psychic Sisters. I'm Kristi Brower, here with my partner in crime, Katie Weaver. Hey, Katie.
Hey guys.
We're excited to be bringing you a new story today. Today
Yeah.
is a cold read psychic show, which means that I'm going to present a cold case to Katie. This is a case she's not familiar with, and she's going to give us a cold read on what she thinks happened. So we'll get to that in a minute, but we usually like to start with a little check in. So, Katie, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. We just took a really fast trip to help our daughter move from one house to another and did basically a 24-hour marathon, got home at like 1 o'clock in the morning and
Uh,
yeah. So, it's kind of one of those sorts of weekends. And where she lives, it was 104.
oh, good heavens.
And so that's not cool. But
No, that is not cool. No, it is not.
no, not at all. I ended up on a lot of dog babysitting duty
Well, that's
because
not bad.
we can't really leave our little chihuahuas home. We have one little guy that's 15 that has seizures and has to have medicine twice a day and really be monitored. And he's
Sure.
blind and he's, pretty crazy because of all of his medicine. And so, he's pretty much always in arms, or,
Mhm.
in the same room we are. And she has a puppy who, basically requires the same treatment
Yeah,
because he is wild as hell. And
he is.
so
He is one busy guy.
yeah, and so moving houses, we kinda had a period there where we didn't really have anywhere for them to be except for in the truck with the AC on. So, I volunteered as tribute to, be the dog babysitter.
Hey, that just sounds like smarts to me.
Oh, totally. Ooh, that kinda heat. No,
Oof,
no.
no.
Anyway, so really though, I'm good. We've got her moved and mostly settled and, she went from a furnished house to an unfurnished house, which is really interesting because now she gets to figure out, like, furniture and stuff. We had to go buy a washer and dryer yesterday and set it up and, she's subletting, so essentially she's the landlord now. So
Uh-huh.
now she gets to, be in charge of all of those things. So this will be an interesting, adventure for her. So,
Yeah, it will.
yeah, the only thing we didn't do yesterday, we needed to buy, some living room furniture. There's nothing.
Mm.
And we just were too tired and done, and it just didn't happen. So she's gonna have to buy from somewhere that delivers.
Well, there you go.
That's the best I've got for her. Yep.
There you go. Well, good. I'm glad she got moved and,
Yeah.
at least now you're home and it's cooler
Yes.
and not as busy, so that's good.
Mhm. Yeah.
I'm doing well also. I had my ukulele lesson today. I'm taking ukulele lessons, which I really enjoy.
Yeah.
And then after my lesson, I learned happy birthday on the ukulele because it is our youngest nephew,
Yeah.
Jackson's birthday today. He's
Mhm.
13.
Yeah.
So I Snapchatted a video of me playing happy birthday on my ukulele for him. So that was a
It
lot
was
of fun.
great.
I'm
It
having a
was
lot of fun on
totally
this
great.
ukulele. It's
That is
really fun. So,
awesome. I love it.
yeah.
And so
Yeah.
smart with your little teeny hands, the
Yeah,
ukulele is the
ukulele is
right fit.
perfect. It is a
Yeah.
string instrument I can play, so I love it.
Mhm. Well, good
Yeah.
job. And I thought
Well,
your
thank
video
you.
was wonderful.
Well, thank you. I had some fun with it.
Yeah. Well, and of
Okay.
course, we're really both gearing up because
Yes.
tomorrow is Chad Daybell's first day in court for his preliminary.
Preliminary hearing. Yeah.
And that's happening in St. Anthony, Idaho. And so I'm going to go there in the morning. So court starts at 9 o'clock our time. I'll be
Mhm.
going up there around 8, 8:30. I'll try to leave my house about 8. I'll go up there and do a live stream, get some footage. There's
Awesome.
a lot of people are planning on just kind of being there as, court
Yeah,
starts.
there are news vans already there. I saw
Oh,
some
yeah.
pictures.
Now, and in
So it's
truth,
be interesting.
Court TV has the rights. They get to stream it, and then all the other news sites will stream it from them, because
Mhm.
it is a closed courtroom because of COVID. We went through all of this last week, but
Right.
anyway, so that's kind of what's happening. But I am going to go up and I'll get some footage of the courthouse and all the news and people there, and we'll see what it looks like. And then court starts at 9, and then
Should be
tomorrow
interesting. We may
evening.
learn some things we don't know, huh?
I suspect that's true. I think there's going to be more info come out than what we have had thus far, so that'll be really interesting to see. I know that
Yeah,
Kay and, Larry Woodcock are in town,
they are. I
uh,
saw.
and I'm sure lots of other people. I thought, I don't know, being camped out at the airport might be the place to be
Yeah, right?
because
In
there's
Idaho
lots
Falls,
of
yeah.
witnesses, yeah, that have been subpoenaed. I mean, it's likely this week that we will see Melanie Gibb, Melanie Pulowski, Ian Pulowski, uh, Zach
Mm,
Cox, the Woodcocks, of course, and others.
mhm,
There's
mhm,
April, her friend April from Hawaii. There's a
mm.
lot of people that may be here to testify this week. We're not really sure what's going to, we don't know what it's going to look like. We
Yeah.
only saw part of the subpoena list or the witness list. So,
Mhm.
anyway, it's going to be interesting.
It
Really
is.
interesting.
It is. I know I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, we'll be live streaming. So the court lasts for 2 days, and so we're going to live stream Monday and give you the update on what everything that happened, and then live stream again on Tuesday and give you the update for that.
Uh-huh.
And then next week we will do the very same thing because Lori has court,
Mm.
same preliminary hearing.
Yep.
Um, so should be very interesting. And that's what's interesting about this is that all those folks will probably have to be here that whole
Mhm.
time.
Right.
If
Right.
they've flown from out of town, they're probably gonna be here for more than a week
I would
to
imagine.
attend both of those hearings. So,
Yeah.
yeah, we will definitely give you the scoop on all of that.
Yeah. We'll be sniffing
Be
around all of it and let
working
you know.
tomorrow, listening to court in the background all day to try
I
to stay up
know.
with what's happening because it's a lot to keep track of.
I know. I have live radio tomorrow and Tuesday, and I went, oh, no. But just gonna have to do it and get caught up. I'm sure there'll
Yeah.
be a lunch break that we can catch up on. So,
Oh, I'm sure, and, I mean, I'll have to not listen some of the time because of what I'm doing for work, and then other times I can while I'm working, but
yeah.
we'll just see. We're all very interested to see what they're gonna present, so
Yeah, absolutely. So, be sure that you keep an eye here and we'll keep you guys updated. And again, I'll do that live in the morning up at the courthouse and let you see at least what we're seeing from the outside looking in.
definitely. Well, and you'll probably have a good laugh when you see St. Anthony because 'cause we're talking about a very tiny rural Idaho town.
Mhm. Yep.
Not a place that's had this kind of press exposure probably
Oh,
ever, so,
the likes of this bullshit they have never seen before.
yeah.
And I'm sure are hoping to never, ever see again.
Yeah, I would
Yeah.
imagine so. I would imagine so.
Hmm.
Well, let's jump into today's case. So this is a cold read episode, with a cold read psychic reading. So, Katie,
Yeah.
I've just messaged you a photo.
Okay.
This is Missy Bevers. Her name is actually, and maybe it's Bevers, I don't know. I'm saying Beavers. Her name is actually Terry, but she went by Missy.
Okay.
She was a personal trainer, exercise specialist person. She was a fitness instructor. She was 45 when she died. She had 3 children. And she was stabbed to death inside a church in Midlothian, Texas on April 18th of 2016.
Okay. Hold on. Let me get a few facts down here.
Sure.
Missy. You're talking
It's a
faster than
basic
I'm
one.
typing.
Sorry.
I definitely am comfortable with Missy, not Terry.
Yeah, that definitely is what she went by. So
Yeah.
she
She was
taught an
43,
45,
45, and her death was
April 18th, 2016. So
and
she
sorry, one more thing, she was stabbed to death in a church.
Yes, in a church in
Okay, go ahead.
Midlothian, Texas. So she was in the church because she ran this early morning Camp Gladiator fitness class. It started at 5 a.m.
Okay.
and she taught it in the church. So on the day of her death, she arrived, according to the surveillance camera, she arrived to the church about 4:16 a.m. to set up for the class. And at around 5, there were several 911 calls that occurred from her students who arrived at the church and found her unresponsive. She had injuries that were punctures. She had puncture injuries.
Oh, okay.
Um, so, of course, she doesn't survive the injuries.
Yeah.
And the police, know that the church has surveillance cameras. And so they get on the church's surveillance and they
Oh, wait,
find.
was she wasn't dead when the students got there? She was just injured?
Well, she was unresponsive and she did not regain consciousness.
Okay,
So I
got
think
it. Okay.
she never spoke or
Never
anything.
never regained. Okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
she had puncture wounds that were on her chest and head.
Okay.
So they checked the surveillance footage, and at 3:50 a.m., they see a person break into the church on surveillance cameras. Now, the weird thing about it is that this person is dressed in head to toe tactical gear. They sort of look like a police officer dressed if they're on the SWAT team.
Mhm.
And because of the way the person was dressed, that there was no way of knowing. There was no view of their face. You couldn't see them.
Mhm.
You could just see them dressed this way. And so it is their assumption that this is who killed her.
Yeah.
This person was carrying a hammer. And so they do believe that her injuries were consistent with the hammer, like the claw side of the hammer, I think.
Holy Christ. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, awful. So this person wanders around in the church for a long time. Well, I
Mhm.
guess I guess about 20 minutes, 25 minutes before she arrives. And they're
Mhm.
just wandering around, swinging this hammer and, like, opening doors and looking in various rooms of the church.
Mhm.
I watched some of the video, and they're just wandering around.
Yeah, so they're scoping out the church, trying to get a feel
Mhm,
for. I mean, that was tactical, that wasn't
mhm.
aimless, that
And
was for a purpose, yeah.
right, they're kind of getting the lay of the land
Yeah.
before she arrived. So the height analysis, because they can do that, from the video,
Yeah.
they think this person was around 5'8", plus or minus an inch and a half. So
Mhm.
around 5'8". One interesting thing about the suspect was that they walked with this weird gait. So their feet were pointing out, particularly their right foot pointed quite a ways out.
Okay.
So they had kind of a weird gait, sort of hunched back, and then this weird toes pointing out gait.
Okay.
Um, and we don't know. Was that a permanent condition? Was that from an injury? Was that temporary due to an injury? Was it because of the tactical gear they were wearing? Nobody knows,
Mhm.
but that has been used as a way to try to identify her assailant many times,
Mhm.
is looking at people who walk like that.
Mhm.
They don't know the gender of her killer. It's impossible to tell from that video. So let's see, what else have I got for you?
So she had
Well,
3
okay,
children, but she
uh,
was she divorced?
no, she was married, so her
Okay.
husband, Brandon Beavers, they did rule him out. So he was 600 miles away on a fishing trip at the time.
Mhm.
There was some question also about Randy Beavers. Randy Beavers was her father-in-law, and he actually has a similar gait to the killer.
Mhm.
But they did rule him out because, he said he was in California at the time of the murder with his wife. Now, there were a lot of questions. There's a lot of questions about all of this, leading up to the murder. They were having some marital problems, Missy and Brandon were, relating to money and potentially relating to an affair that, Missy may have had. It's not 100% known that she did, but a
Mhm.
lot of people believe that she was having an affair.
Mhm.
Um, they really never suspected her husband because he was so far away in a provable place, although,
Mm.
some people really believe that it was him.
Oh, it wasn't
Really,
him.
I
This
yeah,
was a hit. It was him.
yeah,
This was a hit. It
okay.
I okay. If that's okay, I'm gonna
Yeah, go right
stop you
ahead.
right here and give you what
Yeah,
I've got.
go ahead.
I that this was a hit. It was kind of a stupid hit, because
Mhm,
I don't feel like the person that walks like th I don't think that's how they walk. I feel like
okay,
that was because of the gear they were wearing, and that's not normally their gait. I don't think
mhm,
the father-in-law feels sleazy as hell to me, but I don't think that he was actually involved in this.
mhm,
Uh, why, if this was a hit, didn't they just shoot her? Well,
mhm,
the part of this deal was to make her suffer. This was,
mm,
you know,
okay,
there was some real problems here.
mhm,
And no, I absolutely believe I believe he was out of town on this trip very intentionally so that he couldn't be implicated. But I absolutely believe that he did pay for someone to do this. Now, I
okay,
will say this. I do really wonder if the money for it passed through his father in some way because the paper trail of money doesn't seem to really match up. but I do feel like he paid someone to do this. This feels to me like somebody who's former military, who is pretty crazy, and
Mhm.
is willing to do things like that. I This is a man who, the killer, is a man who really, really hates women.
Oh,
And I feel
okay.
like is his specialty is attacking, or not even necessarily killing, but attacking, stalking, causing mayhem for women who have done their husbands wrong. This is all about, making women pay for whatever, for being bad wives, or for cheating, or
Mhm.
for lying, or for whatever. But he has a serious, woman issue. I feel like he hasn't had good relationships in his life.
Okay.
Actually, I feel like when he was deployed, he had a wife who cheated on him, kind of a
Oh,
serial cheater, and he came back from, I'm gonna say Iraq, but I don't know that for sure, but I believe Iraq, very screwed up, and from his experiences there, as well as, coming home to discover that the wife that he thought was, supporting him and doting on him or whatever, had been sleeping with everybody while he was gone, and that was the last straw.
okay.
So, how do they connect with him? This is some kind of internet thing. This is some kind of, I hate to sound so cliche and say dark web, but it is something like that, that I yeah, this is he's willing to do whatever.
Okay.
So,
That
that's
it's
why.
interesting because a lot of people, close to this family, there were a lot of questions about the father-in-law's involvement, and people really did think he was involved.
Mhm,
There was a bad financial situation, and it was blamed on her, although,
mhm,
when she's the dead one, that's sort of easy to do.
sure.
And so there were people who did believe that the father-in-law killed her to get his son out of this mess they were in.
Uh-huh.
Another interesting thing I just found interesting, although this is Texas, but, Missy was armed. She had a gun on her,
Mhm,
and they did find that at the scene. It was not,
mhm,
it was actually it was in her car, but she did have a gun, which I
mhm.
found kind of interesting. Like, did she have some idea maybe that somebody might, have a problem with her? There,
Mm, I think no on that. I feel like she just, typically did carry. That was
just did
just,
carry.
yeah,
Okay.
that was just
And I mean, it
typically
is
good. I
Texas.
mean,
I mean,
it is,
it's pretty
and
much like
it's
Idaho.
too bad that she didn't bring it in with her that day, you know?
Yeah.
But I don't think she ever thought at her fitness class, that was the place she had to worry.
Right, early morning at a church. I mean,
Mhm,
there had been some statements made by her husband, interestingly, that he had concerns about her teaching that class at that church early in the morning like that because she was always there alone.
mhm,
Interesting acknowledgement of that.
you know?
She did post about her class on Facebook the night before her murder, and they really had questions about that she had basically told social media where she was gonna be early morning
People already
alone.
knew. I That wasn't
But yeah, I think it was
it
a
was a known
known
thing.
thing.
Yeah.
There was a very small amount of DNA found at the scene, but it didn't give them any results. It wasn't enough to actually get enough of a sample to perform a test. So
Mhm.
this is a case that,
She did fight back a little bit then, she did fight must have fought back a little.
mhm. Yeah, there was something there that they could test, but it wasn't enough to really do anything. Um, there some of as I've recently heard the term citizen detectives, so people looking into cases like this. I've been watching the, I Will Be Gone in the Night, uh, documentary, which is the, um, Michelle McNamara documentary. She wrote the book about the Golden State Killer that,
Okay.
really they credit her with catching him even though she died before he was caught. She was, married to Patton Oswalt. Anyway, there's this really good
Right,
documentary on
okay.
HBO, and there are all these folks that are kinda like us, and they call
Mhm,
themselves citizen detectives. So, yes,
mhm,
so there are many citizen detectives online who say that they have found proof that she was communicating with another man on LinkedIn
mhm,
that they really think may have been a person that she was either having an affair with or getting ready to have an affair with, or at least
mhm,
it was some kind of an emotional affair.
mhm,
Um, they've not really come up with much in the way of suspects in this case.
mhm.
There have been a couple that they have, that they have rolled out very quickly. There's been a lot of criticism on this case that this should have been an easy solve, or at least should have been solved by now. It's 4 years later, and they're really no closer. The police in Midlothian, Texas say that they are very much this is still an active case and they are very much looking for this person, but I mean, when you see the surveillance video and this person in the tactical gear, I mean, it's one thing to have them on video, but there's nothing identifying about them,
Mhm.
nothing
Yeah.
other than the way that they're walking, which could mean nothing.
Mhm. Yeah. I think it's a red herring. I don't think the way they're walking I think they were not just in the tactical gear you could see,
Yeah.
but shielded underneath their clothing very
That was my first hit, is that the reason they were walking that way is that it's because of what they're wearing.
Mhm.
And that got a lot of attention and was used as potential to place some suspicion on the father-in-law. And actually,
Mm.
the police have been pulling surveillance videos from all over the place and getting reports of people who have that same gait and investigating them on this crime. Never have found anything, but I think they're
Mhm.
barking up the wrong tree on that.
That's a huge distraction, that's keeping
But yeah, it is.
the
And
person.
they've tried to authenticate the gear this person was wearing too, because it does look like SWAT gear, but really it's just tactical gear,
Mhm.
and they've found nothing. I mean,
Yeah.
there's nothing in what this person was wearing that gave them any form of
Mhm.
identification.
Yeah. So the person who did this is not from that area at all.
Okay.
They came in very specifically to commit this crime. They were paid to commit this crime. They drove. And so there it won't be any, video or proof of someone flying into the area or something like that. I feel like they drove. I
Mhm.
feel like this person is very nondescript, you know,
Mhm.
and isn't someone that anybody looks at and goes, "Oh, got it." I don't think he stayed in a hotel there. I think he literally drove in, showed up at the time he did, committed the crime, and was out of town. And
Mhm.
I suspect that well, I'm not gonna say that. I'm not gonna say they won't ever catch him because I wonder if they will finally bust him in something else because this is not the first crime he's committed and it won't be the last. Well, it hasn't been
Mm,
the last. And I wonder if at
mhm.
some point they will figure it out. I also
Mhm.
feel like he has family and friends that have absolutely no idea
Ah,
that he's
that he's
doing what
doing
he did.
this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. Well, it's interesting you say that about driving, because they're on some surveillance, cameras in the area of the church the morning that this happened, prior to the murder, but very early, where there wouldn't be a lot of people driving around. There was a 2010 to 2012 Nissan Altima
Mhm.
seen driving around, behaving sort of suspiciously, turning off their lights while driving and pulling into parking lots and then in and out, and so that
Yeah.
in seeing that car, they haven't been able to identify the car or the owner of the car. They just know it's a 2010 to 2012 Nissan Altima.
I don't think that
But
was
it
him.
does, yeah, yeah, I think what you just said just validated that.
Mhm. Yeah. He
Yeah.
no, he knows. He knows what he's doing, you know.
Mhm.
He knows. And he came straight into town, went straight to the church, did what he did, and got the hell out, and that's it. He didn't do anything to draw any kind of attention to himself whatsoever. He was gonna
Right.
be extremely careful, and he was, in a way that
Mhm.
he just totally fit in, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I can really see that, because he got away with really no information. I mean, and wearing that tactical gear was a real forensic countermeasure,
Mhm,
in that, he didn't touch anything. His head is covered, everything's covered. He's not leaving any hair.
mhm,
He's not leaving fingerprints, anything really.
mhm.
Um,
What does the
t
husband do
that
for
they
a
could use to
living?
identify.
Because he used the
I'm
internet in a
not
way that
sure.
was very, creative, in a way to,
Mm,
prevent his internet activity from exposing what he was up to. So I'm
mhm.
just
I
curious
didn't
if
read
maybe that
anywhere,
guy or
um I didn't read anywhere what her husband does for a living, so
Mhm.
I'm not sure about that.
So on the father-in-law,
Mhm.
he knows something happened. This is
Mhm.
really I'm not gonna give you too much information, but I need you to make this financial transaction happen, period.
Okay.
And I feel like he did, and maybe
No.
through his own back channels. I don't like the father-in-law. I don't like
Yeah.
the vibe at all. And so I'm not so sure what his own, criminal activities are, but at
Mhm.
any rate, I do feel like he financed this, or at least, made a financial transaction happen as to not implicate the husband. But
Mm.
so he knows something happened. He just doesn't know what
Mhm. Mhm.
or how.
Well, people close to this case did really suspect him and seemed to have good reason to in their own minds as far as their knowledge of him and his character. So I feel like you're picking up on what people who knew him and knew this family
Mhm.
felt.
Mhm.
They did a story on this case last year on the 3-year anniversary with basically no new information at all.
Mhm.
And, the husband, Brandon, was interviewed, and he said that, this is something that's still on the minds of everyone in their family, including their 3 children every day.
Mhm.
And, they hope for justice and blah, blah, blah. That stuff that you hear.
Yeah.
But, he's been set up really conveniently into being the grieving husband.
Mhm.
One thing that was, that many found suspicious at the time of Missy's murder is that both her husband and her father-in-law were, like, hundreds of miles away at the time of her death.
Yeah.
Seemed kind of convenient, like, the odds of both of them being out of town at the same time seemed weird. Yeah, there were definitely questions there, but they've not found anything. Although I have not seen any evidence that they ever, like, went through their father's financial records. Now they definitely did,
Mhm.
vet husband,
Mhm.
but,
As he knew
if
they would,
yeah,
as he knew they would. Yeah.
but with dad, I mean, when he proves how far away he was at the time, I don't think that they've
Right.
really looked into him very deeply.
Mhm.
But if they were to look at his financial records, they might find something there,
I don't think
but
they would.
I
I
don't
don't
feel like they have.
I don't think they would. I feel like these guys have been really smart and really careful
Mhm,
to be sure that, there's really nothing to find.
mhm. Wow. That's so sad. It's so sad for her children and her family.
Mhm.
It was a loss to her community and to her students. Can you
Oh,
imagine showing
yeah.
up for an exercise class to find that your instructor's been murdered? I mean,
Mhm.
the impact that crimes like this have on a community, I mean,
Mhm.
it's unfathomable really how
Oh,
many
yeah.
people are impacted by,
Mhm.
a death like this and the fear that it creates in a community that, you
Mhm.
know, if it's happened to one person, it could have happened to another.
Mhm.
I think that the toll of a murder like this is so huge, and we know, having watched it now with the murders of JJ and Tylee here in our area,
Yeah.
just what it does to a community when these things
Mhm.
happen is,
Yeah.
the impact of a crime like that is massive. It affects
Pretty awful.
hundreds, maybe even
Yeah.
thousands of people.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Well, wow. Very sad and very sad for their kids, for
yeah.
sure. I feel like she was a light, She was one
Mhm,
of those people that, people were just really drawn into. She had that gold light, that everybody wanted
mhm.
to be her friend. She was encouraging, she was lovely. I feel like people just really adored her.
Yeah.
Uh, I feel like her husband was quite insecure about that. And I do think that an affair occurred. I mean, this was a revenge thing, This was
Mhm.
a I will make you pay
Yeah.
for the financial issues, and then add to it, I feel like there had been some kind of, marital something go
Mhm.
on, but I feel like always he was a little, and I'm sure he had lots of bravado to cover that up, but I do feel like behind closed doors, he was pretty insecure about how much other people liked her and loved her
Mhm.
and cared about
Mhm.
her, that this has been an ongoing issue for him
Yeah.
forever.
Mm.
Well, and as they got older, you know, and she obviously was, doing it well, and I feel like not that he wasn't, but I just feel like he just didn't like how things were going. He was very
Mhm.
insecure about her behavior, and I
Yeah.
do feel like she could be, I don't know, kind of cold and dismissive with him. I think she was over trying to make him feel better,
Mm.
and was really just
Mhm.
doing her own thing. I think she did do that for a really long time and was over
Mhm.
it and was just really doing her own thing and, spreading her own wings as best she could in that little
Sure.
town. And anyway, it's just mostly I'm just really super sad for her kids.
Yeah, I am too, and it's just unfathomable to me, and this is why I think, um, true crime stuff is so fascinating to me, is that I cannot imagine a situation in my life where murdering my spouse would be an option. You know, like
Right.
I'm fascinated by human behavior, always have been, you know, and that's one reason why I became a social worker is because
Yeah.
I'm fascinated with human behavior. But this part of it, trying to understand it so that we can learn how to prevent it and treat it and better understand that you would get to a point where you're only you in your mind, you're only out as murder, you know,
Yeah. Yeah,
especially
but that
in
wasn't this. I mean, this
yeah,
was
get back at you.
divorce
Yeah,
wasn't good enough. Yeah.
yeah, because I want to hurt you, but that you would
Well,
want to hurt another person this badly. Just
yeah. But I feel like he couldn't afford to get divorced. You know, the financial situation was that getting divorced was going to hurt him more,
mhm,
and it was going to be better for her to
and
be
the
off
cost of the hit. Wow.
the mhm.
Interesting. Very
Yeah.
interesting.
Well, ick. That's too
Yeah,
bad.
I
Yeah.
know, that is. Well, thank you. I really appreciate your read, and you validated a lot of the things that I was feeling about it, and, you know, I feel like you're right, that this person will be caught in another case and will eventually be connected to Missy's case.
Yeah, not that he'll admit it. I don't think he'll ever confess. I don't this isn't one
No,
of those that you get nailed on one thing and spill your guts for 10. That's not the case.
no,
But I
there'll be
feel like
some
he'll
other
give
reason.
them enough. Yeah.
Yeah,
Now,
I
will he
agree.
actually ever be prosecuted for it? I'm not gonna speculate on that because it might just be enough to, give her kids because as her kids get older, they're a little older now, but I mean, as her kids grow, there's
They're
just too
gonna
much
have a lot
about
of
this. They're
questions.
gonna have a lot of questions. Yep, and
Yeah.
they'll start doing their own homework, one of them particularly. I feel like
Mhm,
there's one kid that will wants nothing to do with it.
mhm.
One kid that's gonna start really uncovering their own stones, doing their own homework, and another that's kind of supportive of that, but not really doing the work themselves. Really
Mhm.
kind of a spread field there, but still,
Yeah,
they lost their mother, and, you know,
I did.
I we lost our mom 9 years ago, and I still miss her every freaking day. I don't know how
Yeah,
these kids, knowing
yeah,
their mother was murdered and with a completely unsolved case, I can't imagine the kind of long-term, lifelong trauma that does, you
yeah.
know?
No, I can't either. I can't either. What they've been saddled with, and this
Yeah,
is awful.
it is. Yep.
Yeah,
Well, we'll just continue to hold space that, justice will be served at some point,
yeah.
not
Absolutely,
just to the
absolutely.
killer, but to the people who arranged it. I mean, they're the people that really
Mhm.
but the killer. I
Yeah,
mean, because he's occasionally taking part in something like this.
mhm. Certainly needs to be stopped.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay. Well, thank you for reading that. I really appreciate it.
sure.
I just want to remind you that you can find us on Facebook. We're True Crime
Mhm.
Paranormal with the Psychic Sisters. That's our fan page. We also do have a discussion group of the same name that you can find and chat with us about our cases when we are on Patreon. If you like our work and would like to support what we're doing and get free content, you can do that by going to patreon.com and just search for True Crime Paranormal with the Psychic Sisters. You'll find our page, and we really appreciate everyone who listens, who watches, who supports us in whatever way that you do. Our podcast is really growing, and we're just
Oh, man.
thrilled to have you
We
all
yeah,
here with us.
we just celebrated 50,000 downloads.
Yeah, we did.
5,000, 5,000.
5,000 downloads, but 50,000 views
Yes,
on
yes.
YouTube, which
50,000
is
YouTube views, yeah, and 5,000 downloads on our podcast.
yeah,
We're really excited.
we are. So thank you all for being a part of that and being here with us.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, we will be back shortly with lots of information about Chad Daybell's preliminary hearing and Lori's, and
Yeah.
we'll be back with more great true crime stories and psychic reads. So thanks for joining us, everybody. Take
All
care.
right. Thanks, everybody. Take care.